After nearly 30 years of fighting and more than 40,000 people killed, PKK fighters begin their withdrawal from Turkey to northern Iraq. It is part of the group's recent peace agreement with the Turkish government. But why now? And how does this withdrawal affect regional stability? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Rida Fakhri. Welcome to the program. One of the world's longest conflicts may finally be coming to an end. It's taken months of secret negotiations, but fighters from the Kurdish Workers Party, the PKK, have begun their withdrawal from Turkey. They're pulling out from the Kurdish heartland in southeastern Turkey and making their way across the border to northern Iraq. This is how some Kurds have reacted to the pullout.
We are so happy because of these developments. We've witnessed many bad things since 1993. Our children are arrested, some of them killed by Turkish soldiers and Kurdish rebels. We don't want to see the same suffering from now on.
Our village was destroyed in 1993 because of these clashes. We're really hopeful about this peace process. It's enough. We don't want anyone to die from now on. Turks and Kurds are all brothers and we're not different from each other. We return to our village because we want to be here from now on.
Now, this withdrawal is the culmination of a long struggle for the Kurdistan Workers Party, the PKK. The group was founded in 1978 with the aim of creating an independent state in southeastern Turkey. 6 years later, it launched an armed struggle. The PKK suffered its biggest blow when its leader, Abdullah Öcalan, was captured and jailed for treason in 1999. Öcalan was considered public enemy number one in Turkey for many years, but in late 2012, the Turkish government opened secret peace talks with him. That resulted in the announcement of a ceasefire in March. But the conflict has taken a heavy toll. 30 years after it began, at least 40,000 lives have been lost. Well, let's discuss the domestic and regional ramifications of the PKK's withdrawal from Turkey with our guests from London, Achilles, the UK representative of the Kurdistan National Congress. From Istanbul, Barjin Yinanj, editor of Hurriyet Daily News. And also from London, Fadi Hakura, an associate fellow at Chatham House. Barjin Yinanj, how much of a major coup was this withdrawal for the PKK from Turkey for Prime Minister Erdogan?
Well, actually, the government and the Prime Minister Erdogan wants to keep this, especially today, the fact that they have started the withdrawal as a low-profile event, because they don't, although it is an open secret that there has been negotiations between the PKK and the state, they don't want to be seen in the Turkish public as one side of a negotiation. They have been all the time denying that there are any negotiations, that there is no trade-off. So, for instance, yesterday the Prime Minister has sort of expressed his anger that the PKK had announced a specific date for withdrawal. He just said, well, you know, they should just withdraw as they just have come. So they're trying to keep today's event as a low-profile event.
So the Turkish government keeping expectations low then and not revealing very much about whatever trade-off might have taken place. Akif, from a Kurdish perspective, what might have been the quid pro quo? What did the Kurds get in exchange for this peace agreement?
First of all, I'm very pleased to be here in your studio in London. It is a historical day for Kurds, not in Turkey, but as a whole in Middle East, all part of Kurdistan. The reason is, as you mentioned from the beginning, Kurdish people were fighting for their identity, language and cultural rights. At last, we are going to start to see that's going to happen by withdrawing PKK freedom fighters from North Kurdistan to South Kurdistan. But as you said, there is some agreement between Mr. Öcalan, İmralı and Turkish government, and also there is some information in media. We believe that is going to be first step, but there's a long way to go. I'm very pleased to see that happen in North Kurdistan, but it will take a few months withdraw, it will take place altogether. But again, there is also other side of coin, which is Turkish government need to do, and also PKK and Kurdish politicians. They have to do whatever need to be done, complete peaceful solution, democratic solution for Kurdish question.
Fatih Hakura, what will the Turkish government need to do to make sure that this process, the beginning of what could be a lengthy process, lives up to expectations and turns into a full-fledged peace between the Kurds and Turkey?
What the Turkish government has to do is, first of all, explain to the Turkish public the inevitable major political concessions that will have to be made in order to ensure that this peace process becomes durable. Also, the government has to make sure that to bring in the opposition parties, especially the Kemalists, the secularist-leaning politicians, into the process so that it enjoys widespread political consensus in Turkey. In addition, also the government will have to undertake a major major reforms to enhance freedom and democracy across Turkey that does not distinguish freedom for all the citizens of Turkey, whether Kurds or Turks alike.
Barjin Yinanji, let me get back to you with what might have been the likely price Turkey had to pay to get to this stage. And how concerned will Prime Minister Erdogan about revealing very much about the kinds of concessions Turkey might have made to get to this stage? How concerned will he be about a possible negative reaction within public opinion in Turkey?
Well, actually, the words like price and concession, this is exactly the words that the Turkish government probably would like to shy away from using. On the contrary, they are saying there is no price to pay, but on the contrary, peace is going to come to Turkey. And at the end of the peace process, if the peace process is successful, then Turkey will make a major leap forward on the way to development. So I think this is what the Turkish government is trying to underline as far as the peace process is concerned. When it comes to concession, I believe again the word might be is being used by the opposition parties, but if Turkey comes up with a democratic constitution, because the peace process is tied to rewriting of a constitution. That was on the agenda. Turkey needs a more democratic constitution. So if there is a new constitution whereby the Kurds are giving their universal democratic rights, then they don't have to, then the public wouldn't perceive this as a concession. However, what could be problematic is this. During the discussion for the constitution, the future administrative structure of Turkey will be discussed. Now, it is not a secret that the Turkish Prime Minister wants to become the president, and he wants to turn the system into a presidential system. Now, that is obviously, he might get the support of the pro-Kurdish party in the parliament, and that's exactly that's the point where the opposition parties are becoming extremely nervous about, actually.
So, Akif, where do the Kurds stand on this issue, on these constitutional reforms that could end up changing the parliamentary system of governance in Turkey to a presidential one, a powerful presidency whose office Erdogan himself hopes to fill next year?
First of all, we are in favor of a new constitution, civil constitution we are calling. That means, first of all, not only for Kurds, but also the other people who live in Turkey as a whole, recognition of Kurdish people, Kurdish identity, language, cultural rights, as well as for the other minorities. That is more than welcomed. Also, as you know, there are more than 10,000 Kurdish politicians are in prisons. Some of them daily basis are last few weeks when you look through has been released. But when we have new constitution, hopefully all of them, because they are political prisoners, should be released. Also threshold, again, it is 10%. 21st of century, one cannot accept, like in Europe, Turkey part of Europe, we should not have 10%. Many other things is going to happen. Also recognition of Kurdish people, as well as the peace process should be recognized by government and supported by government, should have in archives. Otherwise, we will not get the peaceful solution, democratic solution in the future. That's very important. New constitution is going to be a guarantee.
Fadi Hakura, a lot of demands made by the Kurds, obviously. How many of them are likely to be met by the Turkish government? We know that Prime Minister Erdogan has so far resisted many of the demands, including a general amnesty for PKK fighters. Is that likely to change?
I think that's the essence of the issue, the challenge now in Turkey, is that the Prime Minister Erdogan has not really engaged with the Turkish public in really the changes that, or the concessions that need to be made to accommodate the Kurdish, moderate Kurdish nationalists in Turkey. For example, removing ethnic references in the definition of citizenship in Turkey, devolving power from the center to the local administrations, widening the circle of freedom and democracy in Turkey, changing the electoral rules to make it easier for parties to enter parliament. These kind of discussions have not been made. What the Prime Minister Erdogan has really done is to present this process as kind of a one-sided process where the PKK is delivering on ceasefire and withdrawal, and whereas the Turkish government has not really engaged in any bargaining for that ceasefire and withdrawal. And I think that would be that will cause difficulties for the process in the future.
But did the Turkish government have any option but to seek peace with the PKK, Barcin Yinanc, in Turkey? Did he have any real alternative, or in a way was this imposed on him if he wanted to pursue a more assertive regional policy, certainly looking at the regional context of Syria as well, in a way trying to neutralize the PKK and the Kurds along the other side of the border?
Well, decades of using military measures have shown successive governments that you don't get rid of the PKK. On the contrary, every time you give a strong blow, militarily strong blow to the PKK, it might withdraw for a while, but then it comes back. That's one thing. A second thing is that I think it was also important for the PKK to get back, to draw back from their maximalist demands, like creation of an independent state or creation of a federation. As of today, I think their demands are more acceptable than in the past. And thirdly, of course, the international conjuncture has also given way for Turkey to have come to such a point, because although at the beginning there were strained relations between Turkey and the northern Iraqi Kurdish administration, over the course of the last 5-6 years, there is tremendously good relations between northern Iraqi Kurds and Turkey, which have also, I believe, facilitated the government's decision to come up with this, let's say, risky decision. So, of course, the government could have opted for more military measures, but as I said, in the past it has been tried and it has not brought any results. Furthermore, I believe that the Kurdish demands for more freedoms, for cultural freedoms, they are just demands that are valid, dropping the parliamentary threshold. This is not just a Kurdish demand. This is only natural for Turkey to have a lower threshold to enter the parliament. So the Kurds demands, some part of it, they already overlap with what Turkey needs to do in order to become much more democratic.
Akifwan, when we look at the demands made by the Kurds, certainly the PKK, their earlier demands for independence were abandoned. Does this recent agreement now with the Turkish government, this withdrawal that we're seeing by PKK fighters to Iraq, does it mean that the struggle for autonomy has also been abandoned, or simply that the means for achieving it have changed?
I don't think so. First of all, let me remind you, 1993. First ceasefire by PKK, Mr. Öcalan. At the time, a strategy of PKK independent united Kurdistan has been changed at the time, not 93 I'm talking about. But since then it was 8 times ceasefire from PKK only. But whatever reason happened, because of the 21st of century, development globally, now we understand Turkey is also willing to find a political solution for Kurdish question. But since long, division of Kurdistan was political. Sooner or later, a solution is going to be political. As far as I am concerned, we have as a Kurdish side, democratic autonomy is called, which means it's not division of Kurdistan or Turkey or anywhere else. We are talking not central government, but local power should be increased, again, in a democratic manner. That's why we are insisting, also we are hopeful this time. Hopefully, both sides will do their bit. It will be peace and democracy who everyone would like to have. For example, Kurdish mother, whoever, Turkish mothers.
You say both sides will do their bit, but will the PKK fighters agree to lay down their arms in the long term if the PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan isn't eventually set free?
Actually, that is the question to Mr. Öcalan or who are in charge for PKK. But if look in logical manner, because when they took weapons, why? Kurdish people were denied. Identity was denied. Language was denied. Imagine my second name is W, written with W-A-N. Even W, as we speak, is forbidden in Turkey because it doesn't exist in Turkish alphabet. X, Y, W, for example. But hopefully, this constitution is going to make some changes. Also, when they went to the mountains, because they were denied. When rights has been given, there is no need for weapon anyway. That's why I believe that's the way we can look into. There is a lot of things myself and KNK, other people who live in Turkey can do to contribute.
Fatiha Kura, looking at it from another possible perspective, when you look at the calculations that were made by Prime Minister Erdogan, some of his own political considerations, how much does the bid for EU membership fit into this agreement with the PKK?
I don't think that the European Union membership process had much impact on Prime Minister Erdogan to embrace the peace or negotiations with Abdullah Öcalan, the PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan. I think that really the EU now, EU accession process is pretty much dead. It's static. It hasn't been moving for the last few years. And I think what really motivated Prime Minister Erdogan were short-term political calculations, such as changing the constitution, so he can introduce a much more powerful presidential system of government, as well as also winning the presidential elections next year, as well as the parliamentary elections in 2015.
Do you feel that Turkey had to settle this important domestic issue, what many people regard as its Achilles heel, in order to play a more ambitious, more assertive regional role and to pursue its aggressive policy towards Syria?
I think that the regional dynamics have played a role in motivating Prime Minister Erdogan to begin these the negotiations with the PKK. I think that Turkey has pretty much is now in a stalemate when it comes to Syria. There's also the Kurds in northern Syria now have carved out the de facto autonomous zone. So all of these factors have been playing into Prime Minister Erdogan's calculations, also to initiate negotiations with the PKK.
Akifwan, what does this PKK redeployment to northern Iraq potentially mean for the stability of Iraq? Having so many fighters come in gradually over the next few months into its backyard, could that spell some concern for Iraq?
I think it's contrary. PKK freedom fighters, wherever they are, as long as no one is attacking them, even they will be protecting northern Iraq or South Kurdistan, we call. For me, for example, the stability of not only northern Iraq or South Kurdistan or Turkey or North Syria, which is very important. If they are there, they will contribute, because their purpose is to get their own rights. They are not going to harm anyone at all, in my view. As long as Kurdish question is solved in Turkey, it will be effects, positive effects. What's going to happen in Syria, what's going to happen in the future, hopefully in Iran. Even developments in South Kurdistan, which mean it's not satisfactory what we have there, but of course it will be positive instead of being negative.
Barjin Yinanc, how does the PKK agreement with Turkey affect the status of Kurds in Iran, in Iraq, and in Syria?
Well, first of all, as I said previously, I think Turkey, at any rate, had forged a very good relationship with the Iraqi regional, Kurdistan regional government. So it's important that Turkey has sort of gotten rid of the paranoia that Kurds will be disintegrating Turkey. On the contrary, I think there has been a shift in paradigm of the Turkish state. Instead of seeing Kurds as a, let's say, a threat to its political and territorial integrity and unity, it is now seeing, it is at least trying to see it as an asset and to become a sort of a center of attraction for all the Kurds. That's why I think the fact that good relationship was forged with the northern Iraqi Kurds, it's like you can find all sorts of Turkish goods there, a lot of Turkish business boosting there, because it's only natural. It's in view of the problems that Iraqi Kurdistan administration is having with Baghdad, it's their only outlet to Turkey. So the fact that Turkey will solve its own problem, the Kurdish issue, this will have positive repercussions as far as the region's Kurdish standing is concerned. But it is too early to say what will happen with Kurds in Iran or Kurds in Syria. Especially there are concerns that Iran might try to provoke this peace process. It is said that it is not very happy by what's going on, in view of the fact that it is supporting Syria, whereas Turkey is of course against the continuation of Bashar Assad's regime. Syria is going to have a different type of administration, and the Kurds there will have a different role to play in Syria. So the fact that Turkey has will solve its Kurdish problem will facilitate its relationship with Syria's Kurds as well.
Where does it leave Fadi Hakoura? The Iranian concern? Some people have been saying that actually Iran could want to sabotage this process because it will feel isolated. Before 2011, before the conflict in Syria, Iran, Turkey and Iraq were actually cooperating together against the PKK. Now some people argue that Iran is being isolated. Do you see it as such? And what about fears within the nationalist movement in Turkey? Some people still consider that this move, this agreement between Turkey and the PKK could still raise the prospect of an independent Kurdish state carved out of Turkey. Is that over-exaggerated?
I think that the nationalist opinion in Turkey can be managed as long as the process is explained clearly and unequivocally to the Turkish public. And I think that the government can bring the Turkish public, and that the government brings the Turkish public into the process. As far as Iran is concerned, I think this has been one of the downsides of Turkey's foreign policy recently. In the 2000s, for example, Turkey had close relations with Syria and Iran. And during that period managed to maintain very good relations with them, but had very negative relations with the Kurdistan regional government in northern Iraq. Now we see a complete shift where Turkey has good relations with the Kurdistan regional government, but negative relations with Iran and Syria. What Turkey really needs to do to enhance its prestige and influences in the region is to have good relations with all the key players in the region, not just with the Kurdistan regional government, but also with Baghdad, Tehran, and Damascus. And as long as Turkey has difficult relations with some and positive relations with others, its influence in the region will be therefore limited.
Plenty more to discuss, but we'll have to leave our discussion here. Let me thank all our guests from London, Akif Wan and Fadi Hakoura, and from Istanbul, Barcin Yinanj. And thank you, as always, for joining us on Inside Story. If you want, you can send us your feedback. Just email us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From Miri Dafakhri and the entire team, thanks for watching.